Let's take a look at all the abilities in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. During E3 2018 I had a chance to record them all, while also asking the developers about this system. So let's get into it. If you enjoyed that, then a like would be super appreciated, and let's go. Abilities play a huge part in Odyssey because they can now be active combat skills as well, like the Spartan Kick or Shield Breaker that lets you throw shields from the enemies to make them an easy target. Good to note is that you probably can't unlock all the skills in one playthrough according to the developers, although they were still tweaking it. All the abilities cost 1 point and you can upgrade them 2 times to enhance the power and maybe the duration of the ability. Sometimes it also adds a unique effect. For example, with the Shield Breaker it increases the warrior damage, so the damage of the ability, and also explodes into fragments that deals damage to surrounding enemies. So that sounds pretty cool. You also see the level of the spear here, and the higher the level, the more abilities you will be able to upgrade and also unlock. And with this spear, that is a first civilization artifact, you are able to do these abilities, although they would not tell me how you could upgrade it, so it's likely something that is tied to the story. Maybe comparable to God of War, where you could also upgrade your axe at certain points in the main story, because then you got the sort of resource you needed. So that means that when you get further along in the story, you'll be able to unlock other abilities that were first locked. So like I said, you will not be able to get all the upgrades and all the abilities, so you really got to pick and choose what abilities and upgrades you want, but you can always respec for a price. So reset your ability points so you can spend them again. And this is pretty cool, although because of the price I don't think it's something you will do all the time, just once in a while. So let's take a look at all the abilities in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, starting with the Hunter skill line that focuses on ranged combat. The final skill you can get is called Ghost Arrows of Artemis and lets you shoot through shields, enemies and even walls. Sounds really cool for sure, shooting through walls, so yes please. We got Overpower Bow Strike, where you shoot a powerful charged shot that deals 800% hunter damage and also explodes on impact, uses 2 adrenaline segments, so of course from the yellow bar under your health bar, that is. So again, pretty powerful for sure. With Archery Master you increase your hunter damage, but more interesting is that you don't consume the normal arrows when using hunter abilities. So nice, because when you are out of arrows you are still able to use your bow. Some abilities did not have a short clip yet in the E3 demo, at least in my experience here, like the Rain of Destruction, where you rain down arrows onto the enemies in an area of 3 meters. So that is a pretty big area. We got the Beast Master, where you can tame and knock out wolves, only one at a time, just like with Origins. But here only wolves are noted, but maybe if you upgrade the ability you can also tame the other animals, I would imagine. With Arrow Master you can use the paralyzing arrows to knock out targets instead of killing them, so meaning that while in Origins you needed sleeping darts to knock out enemies, now you can use your bow instead in Odyssey to then also tame the animals, because the animals need to be knocked out and you can now use your bow for that. The multi-shot ability is like the warrior bow, but then without having to aim that much, so just stack the enemy and then let the arrow do the job for you. Devastating Arrow is something I could already unlock in the demo, where you could unleash a very powerful shot and also increases the effectiveness of fire and poison arrows by 15%. The Predator Arrow ability lets you basically shoot a Predator Arrow that we saw in Origins as well, so you can control it to hit the enemy. Because that is the case in this game, there's only one type of bow, but by using the abilities you can still do the shots that we saw with the bows in Origins. So you basically have a hunter bow all the time that can shoot warrior and predator shot arrows as an ability. No light bow sort of ability, sadly. We do have a spread arrows, shooting 3 arrows at the same time, so just like the warrior bow as well, but this is without the tagging. With the Sixth Sense, the time slows for up to 5 seconds when you are seen by an enemy, and they can lock arrows onto the target's torso and deal hunter damage. Interesting are the abilities you see below here, the baseline abilities that you of course have to unlock as well, but are more general, like summoning your mount. Meditating is back to switch between night and day. We can upgrade Icarus, the bird, so we can tag enemies and increase the accuracy. You also need to learn the assassination ability to sneak up to enemies, but just like in Origins, you will not always instantly kill them. It depends on your level and the amount of damage you do. The Leap of Faith ability makes falling less dangerous. You can even upgrade it so that falling does not do any damage at all. But of course, there is still like the regular Leap of Faith from the viewpoints that you find in the world. With Whistle, you can of course lure enemies and then assassinate them. This was not in the game yet, but you can basically recruit almost any enemy in the game to join your crew. You can have up to 4 crew members with you at one time, and later you will see another ability that uses them as well. With defense maneuvers, you can dodge and parry. Seems like something you want to get immediately, but I would not be surprised if that is like the first skill you unlock. Man-at-Arms lets you switch weapons. Upgrading it increases the speed at which you do that and gives you an additional melee ability wheel, so you can have multiple ability windows active at one time. If we then go to the warrior line, we see Bull Rush, where you can rush to an enemy knocking them down, so like charging with your shield in Origins. Spartan Kick does not need much of an explanation. You can see the upgrade here as well, slightly increasing the damage, but also a shockwave will be there that can hit multiple targets. The Charged Heavy Attack is familiar. Upgrading it will increase the damage. And I already touched on this ability, the Shield Breaker, with a pretty cool upgrade. You will be using this ability a lot against the many enemies with a shield. Weapons Master is just an overall nice ability to have to increase your warrior damage. Second Wind is a heal and one of the best abilities in my opinion, revealing 25% or 35% on level 2 of your health. And probably 50% on level 3, I would imagine. So it can really help you like get back into the fight, of course. Ring of Chaos has a shock blast that stuns enemies and deals damage. We got Gear Master, increases the armor by 10%. Flaming attacks add fire damage to your weapons, also your bow for 15 seconds. In Odyssey, enemies just don't burn like immediately, but you got to build that up to make them get the damage over time. Some weapons will already be on fire. Speaking of fire, with the Fire Mastery you build up the fire faster, so enemies burn faster. The overpowered attack is similar to Origins, although they did tweak all the overpowered attacks for all the weapon categories that are similar to Origins. But now it seems like you will get this overpowered attack way later. So every weapon has its own overpowered attack you can do after 2 segments, although the developers did note that they might tweak that later because 2 segments was pretty powerful. The final ability for the warrior skill line is the Battle Cry of Ares, increasing the damage of your attacks by 20% for 10 seconds and making you unable to die from the enemy attacks. Now let's immediately go over to the final ability of the assassin skill line. We got a Shadow of Nyx that lets you become freaking invincible. If you are out of combat, that is. You can't move and adrenaline will be consumed over time, but still it looks pretty awesome for sure. With Stealth Master, your noise from movement and assassination is reduced. With a slow time you can still move, but enemies will be in slow motion, pretty cool as well. With Hero Strike, you simply do a strike attack to unleash the full power of the Spear of Leonidas and deal assassin damage in the process. We got Critical Assassination, enhancing your regular assassination with more damage, looking pretty cool as well. Call to Arms is interesting because it lets you summon one of your 4 crewmates and let them distract other enemies, so then you can take off the crewmates from your ship as well. We got Vanish, letting you stun the enemies with a burst of light like a smokescreen from Origins, just not dropping them on the ground. We got Poison Mastery that increases your poison damage build up. With Rush Assassination, you can kill an enemy from a distance to deal assassin damage. Upgrading it increases the damage and makes it so you can chain it up 2 times. We got a Shadow Assassination that lets you loot enemies directly after the assassinate and increase the damage of assassination and knockouts by 15%. Upgrading it increases the crit damage. Venomous Attack is like the assassin variant of the fire attack we saw in the warrior section, adding the poison effect to your current weapons. And then we got Revelation, that's like the pulse we saw in Origins as well, where you can light up everything in the area and also upgrade its radius. So yes, there you have it, all the abilities in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Again, things can change in terms of balance. We are still months away from the release on October 5th, so the developers will totally be able to tweak the game here and there. But either way, the abilities will add some interesting twist to the gameplay for sure, just like builds will be possible, since you can't unlock everything in one playthrough, so you gotta pick and choose. I will go way more in depth on other systems of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and new features as well, so totally subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop a like to support the channel, check out my video on an awesome bear fight, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye.